Next, we're going to work on the snare. Again, if we click right over here, we can hit Shift S to solo our snare. And once again, we hear a lot of leakage, this time from the hi-hat. And once again, we probably want to remove that leakage. But instead of starting from scratch with a gate, let's just duplicate it from the kick. Hold on Alt on the PC or Option on the Mac. And we can just drag it from the kick to the snare. And we'll get the same settings we have on the kick. But we could probably tweak it, at least the threshold right here. That seems pretty good as far as eliminating the hi-hat. Now let's add some compression to the snare. And once again, we can duplicate it from our kick. Drag it over and retweak the compressor. The snare sounds pretty even, not very dynamic, so we don't need a whole lot. We don't want to smash it or make it sound too aggressive. Just a bit. And now we'll add EQ to the snare. But for this, we can start from scratch. Choose EQ, EQ3 7-band. And once again, I'm going to focus on three main sections. The lower mids, or the beef of the snare, the higher mids, or the attack, and the top end to make it sound pretty. Let's start with the lower mids. Right about there makes it sound beefy. That's a bit too much. That should be enough. Now we'll work on the upper mids. Just to bring out the crack of the snare. And then finally, the top end. And we'll use a high shelving EQ, which boosts from the frequency all the way up. Before, now let's compare the whole track by selecting it and hitting Shift A. Sounds like an improvement to me. Let's bring in the kick. And then bring in all the drums. Sounding much better. Now let's work on the hi-hat. Again, we can click right here, use that keystroke to solo it. Again, there's a lot of leakage in this, but we're not going to gate the hi-hat mic. Let's hear it with the kick and snare. Let's first pan it a bit to the side. Then let's EQ it a bit so it can feature just what the hi-hat sounds like, and therefore eliminate some of that leakage. Hold on Alt on the PC, Option on the Mac to unsolo all the tracks, and then just solo the hi-hat. Let's add an EQ, EQ, EQ3, 7-band. Let's add a filter at 18 dB per octave and filter out the low end. Any of the frequencies we don't need from this mic. Then let's bring down the mid-range to really feature that top end. And then bring up the high shelving to make it sound prettier. Before, let's hear it with the kick and snare. And now let's hear it with the rest of the drums. That sounded pretty good. We're really focusing the hi-hat with this mic. Let's move on to the floor tom. Close these. Make this smaller. This one bigger. And if we zoom out to the whole session, we can see that the floor tom already has the leakage removed. So if we zoom in, we don't see anything besides when the tom plays. Then it turns off, which is okay for the situation. Let's zoom out and choose a fill to work on. Let's select it, go to the options menu and choose loop playback. So it'll loop the section we selected. Now obviously, we don't have to gate this. Let's try adding a bit of compression. And we can copy it from our snare. Again, just a bit should work. Let's add an EQ afterwards. We'll start off with the upper mids to make it sound brighter and more aggressive. I really want to bring out the stick noise in the tom hit. Now typically, I cut the lower mids to make it sound bigger. That's just making it sound hollow. So instead, let's just bring up the low end. That feels good right there. Let's AB the whole channel. Let's hear it with the rest of the drums. Let's go back a little bit. Sounds better. I want to try one other thing as far as panning. Because the floor tom is panned in the middle, let's move it over to the side. And to make it sound more interesting, let's have it pan back and forth to create some movement. Let's switch it to pan, zoom in a bit, and select this section and bring it up so it pans to the left and then to the right. I think that sounds more interesting. And we'll do that with each fill. These two hits will move to the left. Same with these. And finally, this one. Although I think we could leave that on the right side. In the next video, we're going to work on the overheads and the room.